When you think of a guy like Sly Cooper, the first thing that comes to mind always is his undying, unslowing work ethic. The guy does not slow down, he does not budge an inch. He is quite simply one of the best workers we have in all of virtual wrestling as a whole to this day. A guy who has gone through so much, and yet, after all of it, continues to stay strong, continues to keep his head in the game, keep his focus on track. A guy who went from hard times to being the ace of the junior heavyweights. He set the standard, he set the bar for all the future junior heavyweights that are going to hold that title. Every single one of them is going to have to live up to the fact that Sly Cooper held that thing for nearly 400 days. It took a screw job for him to lose that title. That's how dominant of a champion he was. And imagine how much more of a dominant champion he'll be the moment he becomes a world champion. When he becomes the ace of the VW, which without a doubt is very near in the future. I can guarantee it. Sly Cooper was the ace of the junior heavyweights. He will be the ace of the VWU. But as of this moment, there is no disputing. He is the ace of the entire United Wrestling League. And that's just a fact. But let's add a letter to the word ace. The letter F. Face. The face of UWL. That is our current world champion, Claudio Dragonheart. And I'm not saying one of, I'm saying the most physically dominant individual in all of VWU. He was able to hold on to that championship through both of its name changes. When it was the global title, when it was the World Heavyweight Championship, and he holds it now as the Voltage World Championship. Claudio Dragonheart, there is no disputing, he is the face of UWL. Take a moment to look back at all of the former UWL World Heavyweight Champions and see where they are now. Jotaro Kujo and Shiro, both nowhere to be seen. Tiger the Great III, only just now re-emerging out of the shadows after the whole Order War. And Alduin, well, he's dead. And who killed him? Claudio killed him. What makes Claudio the face is not just because of his affiliations. He is the face because not only is his work ethic just as good as Sly's, but he is the most consistent world champion we have ever had. He has stuck through since his debut until now, while others either went away for good or their status was unknown. Claudio was never one of those guys. The only way he would ever disappear is if he was injured. And even then, you'd have to build a barricade around the arena to prevent it from getting in. That's the kind of king Claudio is. Take both of these names together. The ace and the face. That is what you're getting at Oblivion. The ace of UWL, Sly Cooper. The face of UWL, Claudio Dragonheart. Facing off for the most prestigious prize in this company's history. The Voltage World Heavyweight Championship. This is the match. This is the match that will be the greatest match in this company's history. There is no debating it. Brothers in arms, friends, hell, family. These two have been through thick and thin together. Have been here since almost the start. But would you believe they never faced off before in one-on-one competition? I sure as hell wouldn't believe that. But that's the case. But that's all going to change at Oblivion. One man's got to lose. One man's got to win. One man is not only going to take the World Championship home with them, he's going to be taking both of those nicknames. The Ace and the Face. The winner of this matchup will officially be both of those. You'd have to be a fool to miss it. UWL Oblivion will be a night to remember. It will be the night that this company will change forever. Two men enter the battlefield. Only one leaves Voltage World Champion.
When you think of this match at UWL Oblivion upcoming, for the UWL Voltage World Heavyweight Championship. This term was once used for a SummerSlam in 1996 when I was 1 year old. When I was just a year old. That term was heart and soul. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to heart and soul, you're looking at the challenger and champion here, the two men who really have defined UWL with heart and soul. If you want to look at the heart of UWL, you've got to give it to the challenger, the Phoebius Rakunas, the CCL Men's Breakthrough Champion, the PWU Most Wanted Tournament winner, Sly Cooper. This man has had a heart ever since growing up in torrid times. Grew up as an orphan, thanks to tragedy, but grew into such a proud man. A man who cared deeply about his friends and family. I mean, this is a man who has honour in his bloodline. Because as the saying goes, honour amongst thieves. And when it's come to him in the virtual wrestling scene, look what he's done in like a year and a half. Was the longest reigning UWL Junior Heavyweight Champion, but ever since taking that motto of wanting to be the ace of the Virtual Wrestling United, he went on to win the Most Wanted tournament. Both him and the champion, who I'm going to get into, were screwed in that fatal four-way. But Sly Cooper is a man who, in my opinion, is right up there, and you would say easily within the top 5 of all core wrestling today. And he's a man who needs to win this match, in my opinion, to solidify that claim of being the ace. He needs to win. On the other hand, so does the champion, Claudio Dragonheart, the Dovahkiin, current UWL Voltage World Champion, and, in my opinion, the soul of UWL. We saw how Claudio was left a broken mess last season when he lost the title, and then he bounced back and avenged himself at Salvation. Now, though, the Dovahkiin enters what might be his biggest challenge yet to that Voltage World title. I mean, so far this year for Claudio, voted the number 1 guy in the PWU 50, rightfully so. He was screwed along with Sly in that fatal four-way match back at Duality, as it turned out to be. But for Claudio, he's recently come off a war with the Great D at Forsaken. And then you think about Voltage. Last time we had a Voltage pay-per-view of UWL, he defeated Kilbane Eddie Pryor. This is a man who's known as the soul of UWL. He has been that guy. He has been the man who has carried that belt and elevated it to where it's at. We also have to take in Claudio challenging in possibly using that case in the future, the Scarlet Empire Exchange, to challenge for whatever title he wants to. This man's been the soul of the UWL. And that's why I say heart versus soul. It's the heart of Sly Cooper against the soul of Claudio Dragonheart. Whose is bigger? I think they're quite equal, if I'm being honest. Obviously, when we go into the match stats, massive power versus speed matchup. Claudio has the edge power-wise, no doubt about it. And we know Claudio can do some amazingly athletic things for a man his size. Sly Cooper, definite speed advantage. Sly Cooper, in my opinion, definitely has the speed advantage. Maybe a bit better in the technical submission game as well, compared to Claudio. Claudio, I would say, much better striker, much better brawler than Sly. So they kind of cancel each other out when it comes to the in-ring capabilities. If we look at mindsets, I think I have to state it. I would give Sly a slight edge on the mindset thing. I mean, with Claudio, we've had this whole situation going down with what's been happening with his wife, Commentators, and really since her return and this obsession with Cody Hill. I mean, will that play a factor into Claudio's mindset? What about the factor with what happened at the end of the Fulch's CPV? That's another question. So, for Claudio, I think Claudio's mindset is more troubled. Not that Slice isn't troubled. I'm going to fully admit that. I mean, Sly needs to prove to himself he can win a world title. Came up short against Ray Geddes back at Forsaken. Then there's been the whole issue about Carmelita, who is happily returning soon. But we saw Sly on Twitter a couple of weeks ago mention about Neela and the changing of the eyes, which is a bad pass for Sly. But I would say if we're looking at more recent weekly, I would give Sly a slight edge when it goes into mindsets. But that won't matter on the night. That will not matter on the night. What will matter on the night is who is the best. Who is the number one guy in the United Wrestling League? And I can't wait to find out. I think it's... I'm saying this as a commentator, as a broadcast journalist. It's going to be a fucking pleasure to watch. They're both going to show out. I'm excited. If you had to ask me for a prediction, I think the proving it just means a bit more. For me, if I had to be pushed on a prediction, because I think people would want this, I think the Fifius Raccoonus is crowned at Oblivion, ladies and gentlemen. Be there. You will not want to miss this. The Ace versus the Dragonheart. The Heart of UWL versus the Soul of UWL for the UWL Voltage World Heavyweight Championship. We'll see you all at Oblivion.
I first saw Sly back in Three-Dimensional Brawl. That was my first commentating gig. I was, say, 2008, 2009, something like that. And I always knew that Sly was going to be something special if, he had a chance to get on a bigger stage, on a bigger platform, and to see the growth of Sly over about the last year or so is quite remarkable. Yeah, he's been this dominant junior heavyweight champion, but the drive to want to do more than that, to be seen as something more than that, that's pretty cool. And you see that, with his match against Malik Brown. More recently, his running the VW Most Wanted tournament and his world title match against Ray Geddes. He absolutely has the tools, I think, to be that main event player, to be that face of the company. And I think more people are starting to see that now. You can question Claudio's lifestyle, who's associated with, that whole thing. And some people do, and, it's understandable because, it's not what is perceived as normal. But the one thing you cannot question with Claudio is how hard he fights for what he believes in. Like, he believes in honor. He believes in respect. He has. I know the term warrior spirit, warrior soul, something, things along those lines. It comes off as cliche sometimes, but you feel that with Claudio, because that is a man that fights with his heart on his sleeve. He fights, with his emotions with him, and good Lord, you do not want to fight Claudio when he's in an angry or a pissed off mood, because that's when Claudio's at his best. When he is fighting with his life or his loved ones, if their life's on the line, or if his life is on the line. That's the kind of fight you get with Claudio Dragonheart every time you see him. He's going to fight as if his life depends on it, and that's made him one of the best in the business today. This UWL Voltage World Championship is more than just a fight between, sort of two sides of the company, the junior heavyweight side and the heavyweight side. This essentially is a fight between the two men who, for all intents and purposes, are the face of the company. The two men who were at the forefront from its beginning, almost its beginning, and, two people that were at the forefront at sort of from its rebirth around this time last year, which, I didn't get to see on account of me being dead and all that. Yes, they're friends. Yes, they're allies, but they're both very competitive, and they both want to be the man. But in this business, there's no 1 and 1A. There is number 1 and number 2. And one of them's going to be number 1 and one of them's going to be number 2. And we'll just have to see who that is.